Welcome back, everybody. It is the SpiffyNeedleGeeks discussing the Steven Universe Summer Marathon. We are on the 100th episode, ladies and gentlemen. It is Brawl Fan 1, Rusachi Rises, and Kenshi Yamamoto Wolf. And
Can I have my name legally changed to Sobbing Pile of Emotions?
This is it, ladies and gentlemen. The 100th episode. We are on Bismuth.
And you know this is a big episode because, I mean, well, one, not only just with the plot and everything, but this is the first time that we have a full 20-minute long episode. Because, yeah, Steven Universe episodes are 10, 12 minutes long. They're relatively short. This one is nope, this is close to a full half hour. So well, there's a lot to talk about in this episode.
For some reason, it's apparently technically counted as both episodes 99 and 100, though. Yep. With how it was spaced between commercial breaks, it looked more like just a normal basic aired episode of anything else.
Yeah, because they just packaged the episodes together.
Yeah.
Which of course makes airing it a little difficult as a rerun because you have to slot 2 rerun slots back to back for it. But oh man, this was an amazing episode. The opening is just hilarious. It's like, oh my god, what's going on? And then it's just video games.
Well.
And then Lion starts misbehaving, because Lion is Lion, even though its behavior is more like a dog.
Well, no, I've seen cats behave like that too, actually.
I guess I'll have to put this where you can't get it. In your mane.
And I like how he just accepts it too.
It's he just grumps. Thank you, boo. I love that. Now it's safe in this completely stable magic tree. Oh my god, could you tempt the universe harder? And I will say this, the best part of the opening, besides just the hilarity of that, was how they actually did the title card, too.
Yeah, they actually started a chunk of the episode before we even got the title card, and it blended very well, actually.
Yeah, blended right in when Bismuth herself was introduced.
Mm-hmm.
There's a style for that kind of opening, because the intro didn't even play, did it? Or no, it didn't.
Nope.
But it's
the intro did not. No, the intro played, but then it went from intro to the opening scene and not to the title card, and then it introduced the title card when the title character was introduced.
Yeah, because they also mixed in the opening credits into the episode itself as well, and I'm trying to remember what other TV shows do that. I can think of a few Disney shows that do that.
Yeah. But to be fair, this one, I think it was mostly done because of the fact that it was named after a character they were introducing, and they wanted to actually make it very clear this is the character.
No, it's some other new character that shows up in this episode, except no one else does. So
oh my! I think the best. Oh my god, Lion's face, Lion's face when Bismuth.
Yeah, that was the greatest.
Did you see the expression on Lion's face? What the fuck?
Well, that was inside me. Oh god, the fucking foreshadowing though, because we saw that gem fucking ages ago, and now we're getting an answer to it, and sure enough, it was another crystal gem. So
apparently, according to herself, the best crystal gem.
I wouldn't say the best, but she was definitely one of the original.
Well, to her, she considers herself the most crystal gem of crystal gems.
I think that's just her. I think that's just her hype is all.
Yeah, well, that's a big part of what Bismuth is ideology.
I actually think it's really interesting though. Up until this point, every character that we have met, as far as crystal gems and even enemies and stuff, they've actually been gemstones. But Bismuth, though, if you actually do a Wikipedia search, isn't Bismuth? It's more of a metal.
It's closer to a metal. It's a periodical element. Which a lot of times in their purest form is a metal. Bismuth crystals are strongly metal influenced, and fun fact, bismuth is used in Pepto-Bismol.
Really?
Yes. In fact, a off-brand of Pepto-Bismol at the dollar store a friend of mine works at is called Purple Bismuth.
Huh.
Yep. So
Freaky.
One of the things that cures your stomach ails is metals.
Well, I mean, at least that's no worse than them extracting the chemical that's found in beaver urine to make aspirin.
I mean, that's one way to get an element, I suppose.
Yep. Yeah, it's like I guess I know Kenshi, like this was like the big reason why you wanted to come back to this. But like let's save the theory, like the theories, or just the stuff.
Let's go scene by scene and go through the big stuff.
Yeah, because I know you want to talk about a lot of stuff. But let's get the episode out of the way first. So, but I know just in general, like this episode definitely was so fucking powerful. Just in terms.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Well, for one thing, we got a lot more details about the actual rebellion itself. Because I mean, up until this point, we had just heard like, okay, they rebelled, yay! But now it's like, okay, now they're starting to trickle in more of the details, and it's like about fucking time too, because that is like one of the like, it's for something that is so, it's like the fucking like backbone of the series. And yet we know very little about it. So it's like, it's about time we got some more information behind it.
Yeah, and not just generic information. I like how a lot of this stuff was explained. It was explained like through old fun war stories between friends.
Right.
That I really liked.
I mean, for one thing, we actually even have a freaking time as to when this thing happened. I mean, Pearl said it was like 5,300 years. I actually went and did a quick Google search as to like, all right, 5,300 years, where in history was that? So, 33rd century BC and everything, they even have a Wikipedia page about all the various things that at least so far has been documented during that time period. And, of course they say things like, like the Sahara Desert became, the desert more so that we know of as today. You have like ancient Egypt, like, their civilization starting to take off and everything. But like the major thing that, at least from what I'm seeing on the Wikipedia page, is 33rd century BC starts what is known as the Bronze Age. And the Bronze Age is pretty much when humanity was coming out of the Stone Age and was actually starting to be more like a civilization. So just keep that in mind and then throw a fucking gem rebellion on top of it. So, I mean, I guess maybe this kind of helps Rose, where she was seeing humanity just starting to get on their feet and was seeing all this potential, and maybe that was what helped spark this rebellion in the first place.
That also makes me
also possible, and because Pearl said that the rebellion ended about that time when humans were coming out of the Stone Age into the Bronze Age. So it's possible that the effect of the rebellion itself is one thing that kick-started the Bronze Age in that case, because Rose would now have the power to push humanity. She saw all its potential. The rebellion finally ends about that time, so she can go around and start maybe trying to uplift humanity some.
Yeah, that does make me wonder too. Like, that time was like when the war happened. But how long were the gems on Earth prior to that? Because like I do remember Pearl making a passing comment in a previous episode that they were around when humans were just cavemen. So I kind of wonder about that.
Well, to be fair, Pearl's idea of what a caveman is could actually be all the way up into the Bronze Age, because Pearl has very low ideas of what humanity really is when we get down to it. Pearl's early statements about humanity are mostly coming from a creature who sees itself as way above the creature that she is now being kind of forced to interact with more, instead of acting at a distance with.
I suppose. But like back to Bismuth. Oh my god, what a great character, man! Like,
just fully fleshed out character, and it's so interesting to see a character like this. And I mean, like we knew something was up right away with Rose and Bismuth when she reacted to what Pearl said Rose's story was, but she didn't jump on that. She decided to just let that sit in the past, because she wanted to know where Rose was, and seeing that Rose wasn't there, at least in the form she knew, it was interesting to see her, be at first embracing Steven, because he's different, he's something else, and that's kind of something that fits Bismuth's ideals. And if anything, one thing I really noticed about Bismuth is that she added a second dimension to the rebellion, because we get a lot of sense that Rose's rebellion was to protect Earth and humanity, but Bismuth's stance on the rebellion was about breaking the shackles of the classist society of everything, and the way she behaved fit this. The way she talked about the gems, we are important, during the sparring match, and a lot of her jokes were ribbing at this, like, did somebody lose a pearl? Who do you belong to? Oh, you're two to talk. A lot of these are the behaviors of someone who's trying to turn the negative of a society on its head and reclaim themselves.
I will also add Bismuth. She's voiced by I'm sorry if I mispronounced her name. Uzo Aduba.
AKA Crazy Eyes from Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
Which is funny because apparently that was a crystal gem who was a crazy lace.
Also, apparently she's going to be playing a role in, like, the 2017 My Little Pony movie.
Wait, what?
There you go, Kenshi. There's something for you. Anyway.
Oh my god, I already have a weird relationship with the Equestria Girls movies.
Anyway.
And now I have to look forward to hearing a pony that sounds like Bismuth.
Well.
Bismuth the pony. Oh, that's going to be interesting.
Now that being... anyway, so all that being said, I do like how this whole episode transitioned, though. It was like,
Oh yeah, that transition was cute.
It's like, we learn Bismuth as a blacksmith, which really is well designed into her character, too.
Yes. Our Bismuth is a blacksmith. When asked about Bismuth, she said they build things like buildings and such.
Yeah,
and,
the various spires.
Yeah, the spires and the arenas. And when asked what she wanted to do, she wanted to make weapons. So what did? She made she outfitted the entire rebellion, which makes sense considering that a lot of the rebellion would be non-soldier gems,
including Rose's sword, that iconic sword. Bismuth made that. That blew my mind. Like, oh my god, we now know, like, we know who made this sword now.
Not only that, it does make sense because Steven has the shield and he generates that from the gem, but the sword was not generated from it. Similarly, both Jasper and Amethyst have weapons they just generate, but we noticed that Pearl pulls her spear out. It doesn't just form, because Amethyst, while she can pull the whip out of her gem, she can just hold her hand close and generate the whip right into her hand, similar to how Jasper's helmet just manifests. So it seems like quartzes come with one weapon by default, but yeah, Rose's sword would have had to have been made since it's so physical.
Right, and plus, Bismuth actually upgraded everybody's weapons. So it's like, yeah, Garnet's got, she's got freaking spikes on her gloves now. She turned Pearl's spear into a trident. She turned Amethyst's whips into a fucking flail. So, I mean, it's like, oh, good lord. And then it's like, yeah, getting back onto Rose's sword. Because, up until this point, we just assumed, it's just really badass looking pink sword. But Bismuth actually said that, what made the sword so special, especially for Rose, was because it could easily destroy, it could poof a gem. It'll destroy their body, but it will never destroy the gem, which coincides with with Rose's, ideology that we have known all the way up until this time. So, it fitted Rose perfectly.
Oh, it did, and it was a great weapon because not only was it effective to fulfilling Rose's ideology, but just being able to take out any gem in one swing. I mean, given the fact that Rose had considerably fewer troops to her name, such effective weaponry is pretty much the only reason the rebellion succeeded, combined with Rose's healing power.
Right.
Also, I do like how I guess Bismuth, we can kind of assume that she herself doesn't have a manifesting weapon. She kind of just reforms her arms.
She is a tool. She uses herself as her own tool and weapon. And she can, especially with the pizza thing.
Yeah, she can make literally any weapon. It's I did like that. Like how apparently it was some kind of crystal gem tradition to spar, but spar before a battle or something like that. I did like though that one thing I was afraid of when Steven, tried introducing, Bismuth to all these Earth traditions, just basic Earth hobbies. I was afraid that, Bismuth was gonna, kind of shove it off. But I liked how
I think a lot of people expected that at first because it's a big deal.
Yeah, I love how into it Bismuth got, though. She was into it.
She was embracing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of shows what Bismuth really wanted. She wanted the power to just do that, and that was her end goal. One of the reasons she embraced it so much was it was so different. It wasn't war focused, and it's very clear when you really get down to it that Bismuth really doesn't want to be as destructive as a full-blown war, but as we see later on, it's clear to her that even if she doesn't want to do this is something she justifies as being needed to do.
Yeah. But in general, fucking Amethyst, gorging down this giant pizza taco.
Giant pizza burrito. Jesus fucking Christ, Amethyst. And Pearl's just gotten so used to it. Can you notice how Pearl's just like staring at Amethyst oh, yeah, there she goes again.
This is normal.
this is normal.
I also like the detail, Garnet had a slice of pizza on her plate, but she wasn't actually eating it. Bismuth was eating some pizza, which
she was actually trying it, which is cool. It's very she apparently likes trying new things, because after that, she actually said, I might try sleeping.
Yeah, yeah, it's
and but it's interesting because the scene where they're eating pizza, it also shows, in a way, Bismuth is pragmatism the right word? Because Lonely Blade had the infinite evil sword of infinite power, and he's like, no, don't do it. And she's like, why wouldn't he do it? It's infinite power.
Yeah,
it only makes sense.
That was a neat little foreshadow, I find.
It does show that she's I don't know, is pragmatic the right word, but she's focused on doing the very the things that make the most sense.
It's very logical.
The most effective way.
Yeah.
And to her, as long as it's practical. And the only problem is, and we have to get to this point. Oh, jeez, is sometimes what you think is practical isn't always right, and that's the part of the episode that really hits. A lot of people really expected Bismuth to turn out to be completely evil, and of course you have those fans who see everything in black and white and want to just condemn Bismuth entirely. But anybody with a sense of brain knows very much how very inherently gray everything that happened.
I think that was what helped make this episode stand out. Because every time, if Steven's ever had to put his foot down and and standing on one side and everything, it has been a very black and white situation. This one's definitely in the gray area. Because it's there's both good and bad on both sides here, and it's to see Steven now, it's okay, you've got in such a gray area, what side do you take now? When you can when you can recognize both the good and the bad on both sides, what do you do now?
And what's great is, just before it all ended up going to really dark, is how Bismuth was treating Steven. Like Steven tells her something I think he'd be too afraid to tell anybody else because he's too familiar with them, about how he feels like he can never live up to Rose. And it's so nice to hear at least somebody say, no, why do you want to do that? You aren't Rose. You don't have to be Rose. You are you. And it was if it wasn't for the fact that the actress was so high profile, I think it would have been so great to actually have that have been the end of the episode and have Bismuth come onto the team, because really
it was such a good speech is the thing.
Yeah.
It's
and I liked how Bismuth acknowledged just how weird it was for Rose to have inspired her so well, and for her to have to sit here and more or less inspire someone who isn't quite Rose, but still has a lot of her in them.
Well, that also being said, though, Kenshi, like you just said, you also mentioned yourself, Steven more than likely would be too afraid to admit that he doesn't think he can live up to Rose, to other gems, that he was so open about it to Bismuth, and Bismuth was so immediate for that speech. But I think it also may be because of Bismuth's personal bias towards Rose.
Oh yeah.
Because we don't know all the details, but something definitely happened between the two of them. Where Bismuth showed off this weapon that could shatter gems very easily, and Rose didn't want to do it.
And I think I have a theory that I can't say in this episode why Bismuth was so upset by Rose rejecting the weapon, but I think the three of us kind of have an idea of why she might have felt it was kind of weird for Rose to reject a gem shattering weapon.
Well, that's what I wonder about that. I wonder if that happened before or after. But regardless, I know what you're talking about. But it's like, what I'm more curious about is though, like, when Bismuth was attacking Steven, when she thought that was just Rose lying to them all, like, I wonder, like, was that aggression because she thought she was just lying? Or was that aggression because I wonder, like, because obviously Rose poofed Bismuth and she hid her away without telling anybody, which was a very wrong thing to do. Like, that was,
and especially considering she didn't even tell anybody else, considering that Bismuth and Rose were friends with Garnet and Pearl and the supposedly crazy Lace Biggs and
that was like a big point also brought up that Bismuth specifically said. It's like I can't believe how little I meant to you. You didn't even tell your friends, my friends. Like, that was such a big moment, and it's like, but I wonder, like, Bismuth, like I said, definitely had some aggression towards Rose, like, but do you think it was because she rejected the weapon, or was it because of what Rose did?
Well, a good part of it, I think the first fight started over the weapon. Like, the first time Rose and Bismuth really argued, it would have been over the breaking point.
Honestly, you know what I think may have happened, like, in reality? Like, I have kind of a feeling that I doubt very highly that Bismuth would have attacked Rose over not wanting to use this weapon. More than likely, I can imagine that Bismuth made the weapon for Rose. Rose didn't want it. So, like, just like what happened here, Bismuth was planning on using it for herself, and more than likely, maybe Rose attacked Bismuth over it.
I'm going to disagree. I think it's the opposite, and let me explain why. And this is the part about Bismuth that I like as a character. I don't necessarily like Bismuth, the character, for this, but I like Bismuth as a character for this, is she represents something that really is true about rebellions. When does hatred born from ideals, such as, trying to shatter the authority of the diamonds and liberate everyone, her hatred of the diamonds for creating this caste system that keeps gems trapped the way they are, become ideals to justify hatred? Because we see several times, and it's alluded several times, that Bismuth really wants nothing more than to just break the diamonds. She wants to forcibly break the entire order because of the injustice she sees. She sees the way gems are treated in the Diamond Authority. She wants to shatter that and liberate everyone. But she's gotten to the point where she's lost sight of what liberating everyone means, because the breaking point wouldn't have broken the diamonds. It would have broken the quartz soldiers that the diamonds oppress into fighting their wars. And it's very likely, and this is the thing I really can't bring up because it's not revealed in this episode, but I think the thing that happened between Rose and the diamonds is the reason Bismuth was so angry. She probably saw the breaking point as something Rose would be okay with, because it would be used to free all gems. And this is the part of the rebellion I really like. It was two rebellions. Because Rose was fighting to free Earth. She did not. We have never heard at any point that Rose's goal was to free Gemkind from the Diamond Authority. It was to free Earth from the diamonds, from stopping them from destroying Earth. Bismuth's entire goal, we hear, is she wants to go and free gems as a species, as a people, from the Diamond Authority and their control over them.
Yeah, like basically, like, Rose was, her focus was primarily on the Earth. Bismuth was looking beyond. Because there's like, we may stop them at Earth, but that's not going to stop them, period.
I actually read up on someone's like ideas for this as well that I think actually does make a little more sense. Like kind of an argument towards like what I was saying earlier as well. One thing we noticed a lot about Bismuth, she's really good at hyping people up.
Oh yes, there's been a number of people about that.
She's very influential with that kind of personality she has, and I can very easily imagine that maybe Rose would have wanted to put her away, because if Bismuth brought the idea of shattering the diamonds to everybody else, she probably could have very easily persuaded everybody else to that same ideology.
She could. It's because the fact that we have not seen the personalities of other crystal gems besides Garnet and Pearl, who we've seen as being basically directly the two right-hand gems of Rose. Yeah, that would make sense, and I can believe that. But I do believe Bismuth would have maybe started the fight, as she gets into her own hype. You know, that hype also backfires and gets her to start being hyped up for something.
Well, also imagine this. Like, imagine, you know, Bismuth does go through with that and actually does hype up a bunch of gems into this idea of just straight up murdering everybody else. But I can also imagine there's probably a good chunk of the rebellion that doesn't want that and want to stay loyal to Rose. That would cause a civil war and a rift between the rebellion itself, and that would have caused them to lose the war.
Exactly, hence my mention that it was basically two rebellions, with Bismuth not really able to hype up the half that really wants to go and take the fight to Homeworld, which is what Bismuth said she would have done. Rose was able to keep the rebellion together. I still feel like it's more likely Bismuth started the altercation, as the two probably would have sat there and argued over the breaking point to the point someone drew a weapon. And to be completely honest, the first one to attack is more likely Bismuth, given her personality.
I agree on that one, especially when because as she was attacking Steven, because he kept calling Steven Rose and everything, but she was also bringing up how everything that Rose was saying was just nothing more than a lie, including how, like, Rose's ideology and saying how you can be whatever it is that you want to be, and how that was just all lies and everything. And it's like, I can imagine that somebody like Bismuth would take that seriously. Because, I mean, it's like, you think about up until this point, when that whole Rose's ideology about being what you want to be, it's like, that meant, Pearl not being a servant, Garnet having the freedom to being a fusion, and,
Amethyst being able to not necessarily be a good quartz soldier.
Right. But now you've got Bismuth, who's like, I don't want to make, buildings, I want to make weapons. But now it's like, basically, I'm thinking, like, she would see Rose as like a big hypocrite, because she's like, wait a minute, you're telling me that I can be what I want to be, do what I want to do, but now I came up with this idea, and now you're telling me that idea is wrong.
Again, this is one reason why the reveal later in a couple episodes feels like it might have played into the whole fight, because it feels like what we were revealed later on would have likely have happened early on, and it would have fueled Bismuth's distrust of Rose at that point. And it's also to note, Danny, not only was Bismuth talking about that, but she also brought up, but like I said, she's very practical, and she brings very up specifically what kind of leader doesn't give her army the best chance of victory, which, to be frank, being able to just defeat your enemy and leave them laying in the field is one thing. Being able to permanently put them down is far more effective.
Yeah, that is the very scary truth, unfortunately. I mean, it's like, as much as we want to try and be like, find, like, I guess, like, take the path of, like, the lesser of two evils. It's not necessarily good or bad, it's just which is going to cause the least amount of damage.
And, of course, there's the problem. If you don't kill your enemy, they have the chance to come back and kill your soldiers. So are you weighing them as more valuable than us, since they will not hesitate to destroy us?
Right.
Or is it more evil to just be as violently bloodthirsty and destructive as they are, just because you have more justification for your position,
I think
that's the big issue with Bismuth.
Yeah, it's very much like, I guess I know everybody likes, like, maybe I'm just overthinking things, but I mean, it's like the very themes behind this whole conflict and everything. To me, it's very much a parallel with what's actually happening in our world right now.
And it is a parallel to almost any rebellion, period. Even if your rebellion is justified, even if you have every reason to fight against the power that oppresses you, at what point does the hatred born of your ideals to be free and to be the people you want to be become those ideals justifying your hatred of the people who have been oppressing you and controlling you?
That does make me wonder about one thing, though, because it's like, obviously, we know Steven's reasons for not wanting to shatter gem, because he's seen it firsthand. Bad gems can be turned good. Look at Lapis and Paradox.
Not only, and he's also seen that you have to go pretty dang deep in shattering to fully kill a gem, because otherwise their fragments of consciousness will linger in those shattered gems.
But that also does make me wonder, though, what was Rose's ideology then? Steven has seen it firsthand. They're good. You know what? No, that's actually a dumb question. Because Rose's entire army was a rebellion. More than likely, a good chunk of them were bad gems until Rose talked to them and turned them good.
Right.
Or as we can see from Bismuth, gems who didn't want to just be what they were programmed to be. Bismuth was a construction gem, but she wanted to make something else. She didn't want to just make another arena for her.
Yeah, but it's more than likely, I can very well see Rose's ideology for not wanting to shatter gems is because, to not kill an enemy creates a possible ally for tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's very true. And given the fact that she's a quartz, which until otherwise said, well, fans theorize that, say, certain gems like topazes and tourmalines are also elite soldiers. Quartzes are the highest ranking gem we've seen below a diamond. So if a quartz is willing to not kill you despite the fact that they are soldier gems and designed to crush everything in their way, what does that say about you? What does that say about your position in the galaxy?
It's like we said, it's so fucking gray, and that's why I just love this whole episode. It's like it makes you think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, it's like I said. I mean, even like after this episode, they have been trickling some more details about this rebellion and everything. But it's like for an episode to really start giving us like some of the nitty gritty and everything, I don't think they could have done it any better. Because up until this point, it was like, homeworld, evil, Earth, good, and everything. It was painted very, very black and white. And
it wasn't helped that what Homeworld would have done to Earth really hammered home just how bad things
right.
got.
I mean, make no mistake, Homeworld is bad. I mean, it's like, let's not, let's not forget that and everything. I mean, they were bad. They still are bad and everything. But, it doesn't necessarily mean that Rose's side was, all holier than thou and everything. This isn't like, Paragon versus Renegade or anything. This was very much a gray area. I mean, it's like, while Rose, yes, even though her heart was in the right place, bad things still happened. They still had to do their fair share of bad things too. And I mean, look what happened to Bismuth. It was like, she presented this weapon, Rose said no, resulted in some kind of a fight or something, and Rose felt she had no other option other than to poof her and lie about what happened to her.
I can imagine if the rebellion hadn't ended as badly as it did, Bismuth and Rose would have unbubbled Bismuth. But the problem was the rebellion ended pretty damn poorly, given all things we know, and yeah. Yeah,
I mean, they still won, but took very heavy losses.
That actually does bring up a good point, actually. When you say that, Kenshi, because it's like, why didn't Rose unpoof Bismuth after the war ended? Why didn't she just leave her there?
I have a theory, and I actually have a couple small side theories tied to it. Predominantly, and actually, I have a theory on how the episode could have ended completely differently. I have a theory of why Rose left Bismuth in, and I have a question to the fandom. First, the thing that could have changed the episode is showing Bismuth the room of bubbled gems and explaining what happened to the crystal gems. Because while we have seen with Centipede that some of the gems were homeworld, if you were to actually cure all those gems, I bet you 99.99% of them would have been crystal gems after, even if they had been on homeworld side, because of what the diamonds did.
And you know what? I think that actually is brought up in a kind of a fun little subtle way. Because, like, you brought up earlier how, like, there were 3 names in particular that Bismuth brought up when talking about other crystal gems. It was Biggs, Crazy Legs, and Snowflake. 2 of the gem monsters that we saw with Jasper.
Biggs and Ocean Jasper, yes. So it's entirely possible that the Biggs Jasper quartz monster we saw, which is the one that Amethyst poofed, by the way, it was the brown one, could have been the same Biggs Jasper that was with them. I don't entirely believe it is that specific one, because why would it be all the way out there? But it's possible.
Well, monsters move, I mean.
Well, yeah, but why? Remember, Rose was able to protect Pearl and Garnet and the gems closest to them, and if this was a Biggs Jasper that was with Rose and Bismuth and them, why would that be the same Biggs that ended up all the way out there? You know, wouldn't they have been able to poof that Jasper fairly quickly? But it is possible. It just doesn't add up to me personally. But yeah, I think that would have helped Bismuth understand why Rose wasn't so eager to continue what Bismuth wanted to do, which is to take the war to Homeworld, because really they couldn't have. Which is also one reason why I think Rose left Bismuth in there, because Bismuth took the defeat of the Crystal Gems very hard. And I think Rose knew Bismuth would not have accepted what happened to the Crystal Gems, or just what the diamonds did in general. Because Bismuth mentioned she knew the upper crust were twisted. I think it would have set her off even worse to see just how twisted.
Mm-hmm. And considering what we learn later on about some more details behind Rose and everything, you know, I think it also, you know, when you keep all that in mind, it also, you know, kind of maybe, I guess kind of like makes more sense or something about why she was so against, you know, the breaking point in the first place.
Because in a way, the diamonds created more allies for the Crystal Gems by using the weapon. If they could cure any of the Crystal Gems affected, and thus cure any leftover Homeworld Gems that were affected, most, if not all of those Homeworld Gems are going to switch sides. Because they're going to be like, the fuckers did this to us, why would we want to go back? You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's... I think the reason they didn't have Steven really and Garnet and them explain what really happened to the gems, and thus try to convince Bismuth to just help them try to find a cure for this, is because they couldn't afford Bismuth.
Oh yeah, like that's actually the funniest thing too, because like obviously in the end, after all said and done, and Steven poofs Bismuth, they leave her in the bubble and just put her in the bubble room. Like everyone's just thinking, why? Because my girlfriend even brought this up. She was wondering why is this like that's so unresolved. Like it's probably gonna get resolved later, but everyone keeps wondering why they decided to like so hastily like end it that way. Like, and I'm thinking to myself. Probably because Bismuth was voiced by a guest star.
Yeah, probably.
Like, if they had gotten somebody they could afford to keep on as a permanent staff, we would have already have known that.
Yeah, that's the same exact reason why we haven't seen Sugalite in a while.
Yeah, because Sugalite is voiced by Nicki Minaj. Remember, the one time we saw Sugalite since her initial appearance, it was for 5 seconds, and it was for one punch. She said nothing.
Yeah. But that being said, you know, I do think because it's just a bubbling and everything, and considering that after everything was said and done, before she poofed and everything, Bismuth acknowledges that Steven is better than Rose.
That was,
and everything.
You know what? That was probably my favorite part of the episode.
Oh,
that
was
was such a powerful ending line.
Yeah, because Steven's like, I don't know how, but I will find a way to end all this conflict without anybody getting hurt, all that other stuff, and and she says, well, then you really are better than her, and that was when she pooped.
That's not how it went. That's not how it went. What was said was, that what I brought up earlier. Bismuth was, she was upset because she wondered she wondered how little she really meant to Rose, to the fact that Rose hid her away and never told anybody. And Steven's retort to that was, I will tell them. I'll tell them everything. And then Bismuth replies in shock, a small chuckle, and just says, then you really are better than her. And then
that's what happened.
There was no music, pure silence. It was perfect.
Yeah, that was what happened. My bad. But regardless, I think because it was a poof, I would not be so surprised if we see Bismuth coming back later.
Oh, no doubt. We will.
I mean, it's like, I think, suffice it to say, we know there's going to be another gem war coming. I mean, we just know, with how they've been building everything up, there's going to be another massive conflict coming and everything. It's going to make the whole cluster thing, it's going to dwarf the whole cluster thing that they,
I wouldn't be surprised if the cluster ends up becoming part of the war itself after they figure out how to get it out of Earth.
Or something.
Or that our homeworld comes in to try to activate it again.
But yeah, but I mean, it's like...
Which is kind of scary considering one of the teaser images for the episodes immediately following involving Sapphire. But
regardless, we all know that this is where the series is going. So, I mean, I think, given with everything that's happened and everything, I would like to say that, it may be seasons down the road, but I can see Bismuth coming back. Granted, they're going to have a big powwow and everything, get everybody involved, not just her and Steven again, but I can see Bismuth coming back. Yeah, and coming back full time. Not just coming back for, a cameo appearance. I can see, another thing I think we can expect to see later on is, actual legitimate, flashback episodes. And maybe that'll be the next time we see Bismuth will actually be in flashbacks during the rebellion. But, I would imagine, for this upcoming conflict, I can see Bismuth coming on full time later on. There would have to be some, strict ground rules and shit, but I can see that happening.
All right, I think we got the bulk of the episode done. Kenshi, why don't you go ahead and bring up what it was you wanted to talk about?
Okay, if I had been on board, I would have mentioned this. I would have mentioned part of this theory earlier, but you mentioned, BJ, that people have been trying to figure out what centipedal is. And there is a particular point of interest in this episode that heavily implies which gem centipedal is. Now, here's the evidence we have. We have her name. We can't use that. I know people have been trying to dissect the lettering and make it equal the same number of letters as Emerald. They're splitting hairs. You have no idea how gem language works. So we have what she says her name is. Now, Steven interprets that gargle of noise as gargle click click. So it's 3 syllables, and apparently there is a repeating syllable for the middle and end syllable. I only know of one gem that fits this description, and that is Ma Sit Sit. And what's funny is Ma Sit Sit is a member of the Jade family. And in this episode, it is mentioned that Pearl pulled a nephrite out of the cockpit of a dropship when they were trying to stop a drop of quartz soldiers. Nephrites are also members of the Jade family, and that would mean that the captain of this dropship and Centipedal are both ship captains, which, since we've seen that most soldiers are quartzes, means that it's likely that members of the same gem family, like Jades, would be tasked with piloting ships. So it's more likely that Centipedal is a Ma Sit Sit. So yeah, they also would imply that Jades in general are ship captains in some way.
They're just really good at flying shit.
Well, so is Pearl, but we know our Pearl is a unique case.
Hey, her ship was falling apart.
Well, I want to remind you, she managed to make a robot that held up against Paradox despite being made out of tubing.
True. Alright, so then anything else, Kenji?
No, just wanted to say that Centipede is likely Moss Sit, and here is why.
Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I feel like there was something else I wanted to say. No, I guess not. Yeah, this was definitely a bulky one.
Oh yeah. Well, this was 2 episodes in one and a big deal.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard not to make this a big video in response because there is just a lot to unpack with this episode.
Yeah. So, I guess with that being said, next time we're actually going to be talking about 2 episodes. Because, honestly, you can't really talk about one episode without the other. So, that being said, join us next time for both Beta and Earthlings. We'll see you then.
Lord.